everyone, so today's recipe is blueberry French toast, and we're actually going to be baking it in a pan rather than making it on a stove top like you usually, or what's commonly known. So our first thing to do is get our 9x13 baking dish, and you're going to spray it with a cooking spray. I just sprayed it with a simple like olive oil cooking spray. Whatever you have at home works just fine. So our next thing and our first ingredient is our French loaf bread. So I just got this at my local grocery store in like the bakery section. It was not pre-sliced, so I just sliced it at home with this like serrated bread knife. But if you don't have one of those, a regular knife works just fine. So if you can't find a French loaf bread like this, you can use any kind of bread you want. Anything will work great, just your regular sliced like whole wheat bread or white bread, whatever you prefer. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to arrange the slices of bread in the pan, just like this. Now the recipe calls for 20 slices, and I sliced mine kind of on the thicker side so that, it has enough bread to absorb the egg and pumpkin mixture, but it's still thick enough to where it's not going to get, kind of mushy and whatever else. So I'm going to arrange it in there just like that. Now there's not really a right or wrong way to do this, so kind of just whatever your pan fits. So I'm just going to kind of shove them in there just like that. I'm not going to use the ends. So next we are going to mix together our wet ingredients. Now today we're using blueberries. Blueberries are part of the berry family. They are a great source of like vitamin C, and they're actually the only fruit that are naturally blue in color. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So the next ingredient calls for eggs, and the recipe calls for about 8 eggs. And now in this bowl, I already have my 8 eggs cracked, and I've already added my 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So next I'm going to add the pumpkin. The recipe calls for 3/4 can of pumpkin. So we're going to mix that together. And then we're also going to add our brown sugar. Calls for 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Also, recipe also calls for 2 cups of milk. So we're just going to mix all this together first. So then once I have this all mixed together, then I'm going to add the blueberries. So, like I said, our blueberries are part of the berry family, and our berries are our featured food this month. And this recipe is so simple and easy to throw together. And the recipe, like I said, we actually bake it rather than doing it on the stove top. So you want to be able to give yourself time to leave it in the refrigerator for at least 6 hours. Okay, so once you have everything whisked together, we are just going to pour this wet mixture over top of the bread. Okay, so let me move my blueberries out of the way. All we're going to do is we're just going to try and evenly pour it over the bread as best as we can. Now you can see that the bread starts to actually kind of float, but once it starts absorbing all that egg mixture, it'll go down. So you want to make sure that all the bread is covered nicely. So you might have to do a little bit of stirring or mixing. pushing these pieces of bread down. So, and then after we get that poured in there, we're gonna add our blueberries. Now these blueberries I actually just got like frozen in the freezer section of the grocery store. So you can do it that way, or you can get fresh blueberries. That's always a great option too. Whatever's easiest for you. So we're just gonna push the blueberries around evenly. And like I said, the recipe calls for banana as well, but I'm actually going to add the banana after I bake it, just like on top when I add my maple syrup. But you can add the banana before you bake it as well, and it will bake in there nicely too. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So once you get it all kind of evened out, mixed around, pushed down, like I said, the bread will soak up, and then you can see how the bread is kind of floating on top. You know, that will kind of sink to the bottom. So after this, all you're going to do is cover it up, and then you're going to put it in the refrigerator for at least 6 hours or overnight. So I'm going to leave this in the refrigerator overnight, and then I'm going to bake it. And so I will add a picture of what the final result is at the end of this video. So I hope you guys try this recipe. Like I said, you can see how super simple it was and easy, and I can't wait to try it.